One of the people closest to Bob Marley. What are your reactions to his death?
Well, I've been close to many people who die, and I don't react to death.
Peter Tosh, reggae's unfiltered voice, skipped Bob Marley's funeral, not out of spite, but principle. Their bond was deep, but Tosh had his reasons, spiritual, personal, and political. In this video, we'll explore why Tosh chose to honor Marley in his own way. Early friendship between Peter Tosh and Bob Marley. Peter Tosh and Bob Marley first crossed paths in the bustling streets of Kingston, Jamaica. Both were young, ambitious, and searching for a voice that could express their experiences as black men in a world full of inequality and colonial hangovers. At that time, music was more than entertainment, it was a statement. For Tosh and Marley, reggae became the vehicle to speak their truths. The two quickly found common ground through their shared interest in the Rastafari movement, which influenced not only their music, but also their daily lives. Tosh, with his fiery and outspoken personality, and Marley, whose charisma drew people in effortlessly, complemented each other in ways that would soon make history. They weren't just friends, they were collaborators with a shared vision of making music that mattered. Together with Bunny Wailer, they formed the Wailers, a trio that would redefine reggae and elevate it to international recognition. Their early music was raw and honest, rooted in the struggles of everyday Jamaicans. Songs like Simmer Down and Lively Up Yourself captured the energy of Kingston streets while planting the seeds of the political messages that would dominate their later work. Peter Tosh quickly made his mark as the fearless voice of protest within the group. His lyrics were bold, uncompromising, and unapologetically political. He could write songs that criticized social injustice while keeping a groove that got people moving. Marley, on the other hand, balanced Tosh's intensity with a spiritual and melodic perspective, crafting songs that were both uplifting and relatable. This contrast created a synergy that propelled the Wailers to fame, yet it also planted the seeds for future tension. Despite their growing fame, Tosh and Marley maintained a genuine camaraderie. They spent countless hours writing, rehearsing, and dreaming about the potential of reggae music. They believed in its power to change society, a belief that was not just theoretical, it was embedded in every chord, every drum beat, and every lyric. Their early years were a mix of creative experimentation, youthful idealism, and shared ambition, which laid the foundation for a legendary partnership. However, it wasn't all smooth sailing. As Marley's star began to rise internationally, Tosh sometimes felt sidelined. His fiery personality clashed with Marley's natural ability to charm audiences and industry professionals. Tosh's contributions, though essential, were occasionally overshadowed by Marley's growing fame. Even in these early stages, there were hints of the creative and personal tensions that would eventually influence Tosh's decisions later in life. Understanding this early friendship is crucial to making sense of why Peter Tosh would later refuse to attend Bob Marley's funeral. Their bond was real, built on shared history, ideals, and struggles, but it was also complex. While they respected each other as artists and friends, Tosh's unwavering principles and individualistic nature would eventually guide him to make choices that many found shocking, but were entirely consistent with his character. The rise of the Wailers. The Wailers' rise from Kingston's local scene to international fame was nothing short of extraordinary. What began as a small group of friends playing in studios and local dances quickly exploded into a phenomenon. Their music combined catchy rhythms, socially conscious lyrics, and the unique energy of the Jamaican streets, making them impossible to ignore. Fans didn't just listen, they felt the music in their bones. Peter Tosh, Bob Marley, and Bunny Wailer brought distinct personalities and talents to the group. Tosh had the reputation of being outspoken and politically charged, while Marley's soulful melodies and stage presence made him the face of the group. Bunny Wailer often acted as a balancing force, helping to keep the trio in harmony, both musically and personally. Together, they had a formula that resonated globally. By the late 1960s, the Wailers began gaining international attention. Their music spoke to themes that transcended borders: poverty, injustice, love, and spirituality. Albums like Catch a Fire and Burnin' introduced the world to a sound that was both revolutionary and irresistible. Tracks such as Get Up, Stand Up, and I Shot the Sheriff showcased not only their musical skill, but also their ability to communicate messages of empowerment and resistance. However, the success came with challenges. As Marley's visibility grew, so did the perception that he was the driving force behind the group. This was partly because Marley had a natural charisma that drew both fans and industry executives. Tosh's contributions, though critical to the band's identity, were often overshadowed. He wrote songs, played masterful guitar riffs, and had a stage presence that demanded attention. Yet the world increasingly focused on Marley as the frontman. Creative differences also began to surface. Tosh wanted to keep their music rooted in political activism, directly confronting social and economic injustices. Marley, while still committed to social messages, increasingly aimed for a universal appeal that would resonate with a broader audience. This difference in approach caused tension, as Tosh believed music was a tool for social change, while Marley leaned toward reaching hearts globally, sometimes at the expense of political directness. By 1974, these pressures and differences led to Tosh and Bunny Wailer leaving the Wailers. Tosh was determined to carve out a solo career that reflected his personal and political ideals. His decision was not an easy one. He had deep respect for Marley and cherished their shared history, but independence was necessary for him to fully express his artistic and activist vision. Despite leaving, Tosh's influence on reggae remained evident. The Wailers' early albums, shaped equally by Tosh's political edge and Marley's melodic sensibility, set the standard for reggae worldwide. Tosh's insistence on confronting social issues through music would continue to inspire artists long after his departure. The rise of the Wailers illustrates more than just musical success. It highlights the complexities of collaboration, personality clashes, and the challenges of balancing art with fame. Tosh's journey during this period set the stage for his later choices, including the decision that would shock fans when Marley passed away. Understanding this era makes it clear that Tosh's actions were grounded in a lifetime of principles, creative vision, and the sometimes complicated realities of friendship and fame. Creative differences and conflicts. The creative partnership between Peter Tosh and Bob Marley was undeniably powerful, but it was far from frictionless. What made their collaboration legendary also made it volatile. Tosh had a bold, uncompromising approach to music and life. He believed songs were meant to challenge authority, confront injustice, and speak truth to power. Marley, while socially conscious, had a more universal vision. He wanted his music to uplift people and reach as wide an audience as possible. This difference in perspective created tension over time. Tosh's frustration often stemmed from feeling that his contributions were overlooked. He was a skilled songwriter and a dynamic performer, yet the spotlight increasingly favored Marley. Songs that Tosh helped craft sometimes became associated solely with Marley, leaving Tosh with the impression that his voice and efforts were being minimized. While he respected Marley's talent, he wanted recognition for his own, and he was not shy about expressing it. These creative tensions were amplified by their differing approaches to performance and promotion. Tosh's style was confrontational and politically charged, demanding that audiences engage with the content of his lyrics. Marley, however, had a knack for connecting with audiences emotionally, often softening messages to appeal to listeners worldwide. Tosh saw this as a compromise of the music's true purpose, while Marley saw it as a way to broaden reggae's reach and influence. Both approaches had merit, yet they pulled the duo in different directions. Tosh was outspoken, direct, and unafraid to challenge anyone who disagreed with him. Marley, with his more diplomatic demeanor, sometimes found Tosh's approach abrasive. Despite this, there remained a mutual understanding. Both men wanted to use music to make a difference. The problem was the method. Tosh wanted fire and confrontation. Marley preferred unity and persuasion. This contrast created an undercurrent of friction that simmered for years. Tosh's eventual departure from the Wailers in 1974 was the culmination of these conflicts. It was not a betrayal, but a decision grounded in principle. Tosh needed a platform where he could fully express his political convictions without compromise. He also needed to step out of Marley's growing shadow to assert his own identity as an artist. Leaving the band allowed him to pursue his solo career with complete autonomy, shaping albums like Legalize It and Equal Rights, which showcased his uncompromising vision. Despite these conflicts, Tosh never rejected the friendship entirely. He and Marley maintained a level of respect that was uncommon in high-pressure creative partnerships. They occasionally collaborated or supported each other publicly, but the tension lingered beneath the surface. It was a reminder that friendship in the music industry, even one as deep as theirs, could be complicated by ambition, personality, and differing visions for art and activism. Understanding these creative differences is key to understanding why Tosh made choices that surprised the public later on. His refusal to attend Marley's funeral was not rooted in bitterness alone. It was consistent with a lifetime of prioritizing principle, personal beliefs, and artistic integrity. Tosh's approach to music and life had always been about staying true to his own voice, even when it meant making difficult decisions that others might not understand. Tosh's solo career and independence. After leaving the Wailers in 1974, Peter Tosh embarked on a solo career that would define him as both a musician and a force for social change. While his departure might have surprised some fans, for Tosh it was a necessary step. He needed to express himself fully without compromise, creating music that reflected his principles, political beliefs, and personal vision. Tosh wasted no time establishing his solo identity. His debut album, Legalize It, was more than a collection of songs. It was a manifesto. The title track called for the legalization of marijuana, a subject deeply tied to his Rastafarian beliefs. It was bold, unapologetic, and controversial, but it also introduced the world to Tosh as an artist who spoke his mind without fear. This was a departure from his time with the Wailers, where creative compromises sometimes diluted his message. His music consistently carried sharp political and social commentary. Songs like Equal Rights and MAGA Dog addressed issues of inequality, oppression, and resistance. Tosh did not shy away from confronting authorities or criticizing societal structures. In his music, you could hear both the fire and the intellect of a man committed to change. He believed music should challenge audiences, make them think, and inspire action. While Marley had found global appeal through universal themes, Tosh focused on direct, sometimes confrontational, messaging. Performing live became another arena where Tosh's independence shone. His concerts were electrifying, filled with passion and a sense of urgency. Fans knew they were seeing an artist fully committed to his principles. He was not just entertaining, he was educating, provoking, and inspiring. Tosh's stage presence was a testament to his confidence in his convictions and his refusal to be overshadowed by anyone, including former bandmates. Independence for Tosh was not limited to his music. It was a way of life. He made decisions according to his beliefs, not commercial pressures or popular opinion. He refused to water down his political statements to please record labels or audiences. This dedication sometimes put him at odds with the industry, but it also earned him respect among fans who valued authenticity over popularity. His reputation as a principled, fearless artist became central to his identity. Tosh's solo career also allowed him to cultivate his voice as a global activist. He toured internationally, spreading his messages beyond Jamaica. His music became a tool for raising awareness about social injustices worldwide. He embodied the idea that an artist's responsibility extends beyond entertainment. Music can be a vehicle for change, education, and empowerment. This independence set the tone for many of Tosh's life choices, including those that shocked the public. Refusing to attend Bob Marley's funeral was consistent with the persona he had built. Tosh prioritized principle over appearances. He honored his friend in his own way, guided by his spiritual and personal beliefs rather than public expectations. It was a decision rooted in autonomy, integrity, and a lifetime of asserting his own voice. Ultimately, Peter Tosh's solo career was not just a musical journey. It was a statement of identity, independence, and unwavering commitment to truth. Every album, every performance, and every public stance reinforced the image of a man who refused to compromise. This period of his life laid the foundation for understanding his later actions, including the choice to walk his own path, even in moments of profound cultural significance. Political views and personal beliefs. Peter Tosh was never an artist who separated music from his convictions. His political views and personal beliefs were inseparable from who he was, both on and off stage. Tosh lived with a clarity that most of us only aspire to, one that demanded honesty, integrity, and a refusal to bow to pressure. For him, music was a weapon, a teacher, and a declaration of truth. Tosh's political stance was bold and unapologetic. He spoke out against inequality, injustice, and oppression in a world that often preferred silence. In songs like Equal Rights, he demanded recognition for the marginalized and challenged systems that perpetuated suffering. His voice resonated with people who had little power in society, providing them not just entertainment, but representation and solidarity. Tosh did not write safe songs for safe approval. His words were fire, and he expected people to pay attention. Beyond his lyrics, Tosh's life reflected the principles he sang about. He was deeply connected to Rastafarian beliefs, which informed everything from his lifestyle to his worldview. For Tosh, spirituality was a form of resistance. His faith guided his stance on social issues, his diet, his approach to law and governance, and his insistence on personal responsibility. Following his principles was not optional, it was essential. Tosh also had a philosophical approach to life and death that set him apart from mainstream perspectives. For him, death was not an endpoint, but a continuation of the spirit's journey. Funerals and mourning rituals were meaningful, but they were secondary to how a person lived and honored their beliefs. This perspective helps explain why he chose not to attend Bob Marley's funeral. It was not a rejection of his friend. It was an affirmation of his own understanding of life, death, and spiritual expression. His approach to activism extended beyond music. Tosh used his fame to speak out internationally, confronting political and social structures that perpetuated inequality. He openly criticized governments, challenged the status quo, and advocated for freedom and justice. While other artists sometimes diluted their messages to appeal to broader audiences, Tosh remained steadfast. Compromise was rarely part of his vocabulary. Integrity, principle, and consistency guided his actions, even when it cost him popularity or comfort. The combination of political boldness and spiritual conviction shaped how Tosh navigated personal relationships and professional opportunities. He was a man who valued authenticity above all else. Friendships, collaborations, and social engagements were filtered through a lens of principle. If something felt wrong or inauthentic, Tosh would not participate, no matter how socially or culturally expected it was. This unwavering approach often made him seem radical, but for those who understood him, it was simply consistent. Understanding Tosh's political views and personal beliefs is essential for understanding his decision to skip Marley's funeral. It was never about anger, jealousy, or disrespect. It was about being true to himself. To honor Marley authentically, Tosh needed to act in alignment with his principles, even if it went against public expectation. In a world where appearances often outweigh convictions, Tosh's decision was a statement of integrity, spiritual fidelity, and lifelong commitment to speaking truth. Peter Tosh's life teaches that living authentically often means making choices others won't understand. His political activism and personal beliefs weren't a performance. They were the framework of his existence. By understanding these foundations, we can see that his absence at Marley's funeral was less a snub and more a continuation of a life lived entirely on his own terms. The day of the funeral. Bob Marley's funeral in May 1981 was one of the most significant events in reggae history. Thousands gathered in Jamaica to pay their respects to a man whose music had transcended borders and inspired millions. The ceremony blended traditional Rastafarian practices with public mourning, creating a moment that was both spiritual and widely emotional. Fans and fellow musicians came together to honor Marley's life. Yet one prominent absence caught everyone's attention: Peter Tosh. Tosh's decision not to attend sparked curiosity and speculation immediately. To outsiders, it seemed almost unthinkable that someone so closely tied to Marley's journey would not be present. After all, they had shared decades of music, activism, and friendship. Yet those who knew Tosh understood that his choices were always filtered through his principles, personal beliefs, and sense of integrity. Attending the funeral, while socially expected, may have conflicted with the way Tosh believed in honoring life and death. Accounts from people close to both artists suggest multiple layers to Tosh's decision. For Tosh, public ceremonies were not always the best reflection of respect. He believed that genuine homage came through action, music, and consistent commitment to ideals rather than symbolic attendance. In other words, showing honor did not necessarily require being physically present. This perspective aligns with his larger philosophy about life. Authenticity outweighs appearances. Tosh's absence also reflected lingering tensions in their relationship. While he respected Marley's talent and legacy, Tosh had long sought to assert his independence and maintain a sense of personal and creative sovereignty. Attending the funeral may have felt like compromising that autonomy, especially given the media attention and public expectations surrounding the event. Tosh's decision demonstrates his commitment to personal integrity over external pressures, even when the stakes were emotional and culturally significant. Another factor was Tosh's spiritual understanding of death. For him, Marley's spirit lived on beyond the ceremony. Mourning, while important, was secondary to celebrating a person's beliefs, life work, and ongoing influence. Tosh likely felt that he could honor Marley more authentically through his music, activism, and personal reflection rather than participating in a ritual that, while culturally important, did not align with his worldview. Public reaction to Tosh's absence was mixed. Some interpreted it as a sign of estrangement or anger, while others recognized it as consistent with his lifelong commitment to principle and independence. Over time, historians and reggae fans have come to view his decision less as a snub and more as a reflection of his uncompromising character. Tosh's absence became a part of his story, a demonstration of a man who lived and acted according to his beliefs rather than social expectation. Ultimately, the day of Marley's funeral highlights the differences between these two reggae legends. Marley embraced a global persona that connected with millions, while Tosh remained grounded in personal conviction, spiritual depth, and political activism. Their friendship and shared history made Tosh's absence notable, but it was consistent with the path he had walked his entire life, a path defined by authenticity, courage, and unwavering adherence to principle. By understanding the circumstances surrounding the funeral, it becomes clear that Tosh's decision was neither cruel nor capricious. It was deliberate, rooted in a lifetime of choices that prioritized integrity, spiritual alignment, and independent thought. In skipping the funeral, Tosh stayed true to himself, demonstrating that sometimes respect and loyalty are expressed in ways the world may not immediately understand. Tosh's statement and perspective. Peter Tosh rarely shied away from speaking his truth, and his reflections on Bob Marley's funeral are no exception. While he did not attend, Tosh never positioned his absence as a slight or personal vendetta. Instead, it reflected his broader philosophy: honor your convictions and live authentically, even when it defies social expectation. For Tosh, respect was more than a physical gesture. It was a matter of principle, personal integrity, and spiritual alignment. Tosh himself spoke publicly about his absence in ways that clarified his intentions. He emphasized that attending the funeral would have conflicted with his personal beliefs about life, death, and honoring someone's legacy. He believed that genuine respect transcended ceremonies or public appearances. According to Tosh, it was possible to celebrate Marley's life, contributions, and spirit without participating in a ritual that did not align with his understanding of authenticity and spiritual practice. In interviews and conversations, Tosh framed his decision as an extension of the life he had consistently led. He had long maintained a position of independence, refusing to compromise on principles for popularity, money, or peer approval. This independence was part of what defined him both as an artist and as a human being. Attending the funeral under public scrutiny may have felt performative rather than sincere, and Tosh had never been one to feign sentiment for the sake of appearances. His perspective also reflected the way he viewed Marley himself. Tosh respected Marley immensely, acknowledging his talent, charisma, and influence. The absence of resentment or animosity is evident in the way Tosh spoke about Marley's legacy. He recognized Marley's contributions to reggae and global culture while maintaining his own stance as a self-directed individual. For Tosh, respecting Marley did not require doing what society expected. It required honoring his memory in a way that felt genuine to his own beliefs. Another element in Tosh's perspective was the idea that mourning and honoring someone is not limited to a single day or public event. He believed in living by the values of those we admire, carrying forward their message through action, music, and ongoing dedication. In this sense, Tosh's respect for Marley manifested through the continuation of his own activism, music, and unapologetic advocacy for justice. It was an active, living tribute rather than a symbolic gesture. This viewpoint also illustrates a broader principle that guided Tosh throughout his life. Authenticity matters more than conformity. From his music to his personal conduct, Tosh made decisions based on inner conviction rather than public expectation. This approach earned him both admiration and misunderstanding, but it remained unwavering. His choice regarding Marley's funeral was consistent with decades of living by this ethos. Tosh's statement and perspective ultimately offer insight into his character. He was principled, fearless, and unapologetically independent. His absence was not a lack of respect, but a reflection of the depth of his beliefs. By understanding his reasoning, it becomes clear that Tosh acted in a way that was true to himself, just not in the traditional or expected manner. His decision serves as a reminder that respect and loyalty are expressed in diverse ways, often invisible to the casual observer. Legacy and reflections. Peter Tosh's absence from Bob Marley's funeral has become one of the most talked about moments in reggae history. At first, fans questioned whether the decision was personal, a sign of resentment, or a rift between former bandmates. But understanding Tosh's legacy makes it clear that this act was consistent with the man he had always been: principled, independent, and unafraid to follow his own moral compass, even in the face of public expectation. Tosh's legacy is tied to his uncompromising nature. Throughout his career, whether with the Wailers or as a solo artist, he stood firm in his beliefs. He used music as a platform to challenge authority, confront injustice, and advocate for marginalized communities. This steadfast commitment to principle meant that his decisions were rarely motivated by popularity or approval. When he chose not to attend Marley's funeral, he acted from the same place of integrity that had defined his life and career. Reflections on Tosh's decision also highlight the diversity of ways people honor each other. While most would assume attending a funeral is the ultimate sign of respect, Tosh approached it differently. He honored Marley's life through continued activism, music, and by living authentically. In his eyes, respect and tribute were not ceremonial. They were a matter of principle and daily action. By continuing to champion the causes Marley cared about, Tosh offered a living testament to his friend's legacy. Critics and fans alike have debated whether Tosh's absence was controversial or courageous. From a historical perspective, it stands as an example of consistency. Tosh lived a life where appearances never dictated choices. By making a decision that aligned with his beliefs, he reinforced the idea that authenticity sometimes requires going against societal expectations. Tosh's actions also offer insight into the complexity of relationships among artists who share both creative and personal bonds. Friendships like Tosh and Marley's are layered, shaped by mutual admiration, rivalry, collaboration, and differing philosophies. While they shared a deep history, Tosh's choice demonstrates that love and respect do not always manifest in ways that meet public expectations. Genuine respect is not performative. It is consistent with one's values and worldview. Looking back, Tosh's decision contributes to a broader understanding of his character and his contributions to reggae and activism. He remains an enduring figure not just for his music, but for his courage in living according to principle. His absence from Marley's funeral may have surprised many, but it reinforces the narrative of a man who never compromised, even in moments of great emotional significance. In the end, Peter Tosh's story reminds us that legacy is defined as much by actions as by appearances. His music, activism, and unyielding commitment to his beliefs continue to inspire generations. While he chose a path that differed from societal expectations during Marley's funeral, it was true to his character and served as a living example of integrity, courage, and authenticity. His life demonstrates that honoring someone's memory does not always fit conventional molds. It can be loud, quiet, public, or personal, as long as it is genuine. Peter Tosh left behind more than music. He left a blueprint for living boldly, speaking truth, and staying authentic. Peter Tosh's choice to skip Bob Marley's funeral wasn't about bitterness, it was about integrity. He honored his friend in his own way, staying true to his beliefs and principles. Sometimes respect and loyalty look different than we expect, and Tosh's life reminds us that authenticity is the ultimate tribute.